In section 4.1, we're looking at correlation. So correlation, what that means is we're trying to find a relationship between two variables. Is there a trend that exists whenever one variable increases, does the other increase or decrease? For example, in example 1, we have the starting depth in the ground, 35 feet, 50 feet, 75 feet. And what we're interested in is the further we go into the ground, how much time does it take to drill an additional 5 feet? And in this table, this is data that was recorded, and let's assume that the time is in seconds. Okay, so if the starting depth is at 35 feet, it takes 5.88 seconds to drill an additional 5 feet. And what we'd like to know, is there a trend? The further we are in the ground, does it take more or less time to drill an additional 5 feet? So correlation is all about trend. And I want to show you how to draw the scatter diagram. Scatter diagram will show us the trend, okay? How to draw the scatter diagram in the calculator. So first thing I do want to show you is for a scatter diagram, we should expect some data points, okay, that can line up like this, okay? We can expect data points that can maybe go like this as well, okay? And it's all about trying to identify a trend. For example, if you're looking at this first graph here, it appears that there's an upward trend with the data, right? So this is a positive linear relation. And if you look at the second one, it appears, just by looking at it, that there seems to be a negative trend with this data, right? So here we have a negative linear trend. So anytime you have something like this, by the way, if we're trying to identify the type of trend that exists, okay, and say that whenever we draw the scatter diagram in the calculator, and if it shows up like this, we identify this as no linear trend, okay? So we're trying to see if the behavior of the data forms a straight line, more or less. So in example 1, okay, so we go to our calculator, and the first thing to do, so we have data, so we need to enter the data into the calculator. So we'll go to Stat and Edit. Okay. So I've already entered the data into the calculator. The starting depth, we're going to enter that in L1. The time to drill an additional 5 feet, that depends on where we are in the ground. That's going to be our L2. Okay. So once you enter the data into the calculator, quit to the home screen, and the setup to begin the scatter diagram, there are a couple things we need to do. So first we go to second y equal. Okay, that's going to bring up the stat plot. We've seen the stat plot before with other diagrams. We'll go to the first one and then press on, and we'll go down. Okay. So the scattered diagram will be a set of scattered points. Okay, and the first type, it defaults to the scattered diagram, so we're okay there. And then for your X list and Y list, go ahead and make sure that the starting depth is in the X list, which is L1. The Y list is the time to drill an additional 5 feet, which is L2. Okay. After that, we're ready to see the scatter diagram. So what we'll do is we'll hit graph. Okay. And we had a problem before as well whenever we hit graph and nothing appeared. Okay. So whenever that happens, we'll go to zoom. Number 9. We'll zoom very nicely into our stat plots, okay? So if we're looking at this data set, when we graph it on a scattered diagram, it appears to have a positive trend. What that means is the further we are in the ground, the starting depth, as the starting depth increases, the time to drill an additional 5 feet also increases,